Bonsoir tout le monde，大家晚上好。
Hello
非常欢迎大
everyone,
家今天和我们一起度过这一
welcome
个小时的
to
线
spend
上的
this
讲
one
座。
hour
那
online
我
conversation
们现
together
在
with
所在
us.
的就是 L'École des
So
Arts
now
Joyeux
we're
School of
actually
Jewelry Arts
at
在
the
上海珠宝艺术
L'École
中心的这个
Chevalier
现在正在进行的
School
展
Jewelry
览的
of
这么一个
Arts
空
Shanghai
间。那我的
Campus
名字叫王
Exhibition
笑佳，
Hall.
我是上海珠
So
宝
my
艺
name
术
is
中
Wang
心珠宝艺
Xiaojia.
术史和精湛工艺细
I'm
胞
the
分享
art
的老师。
historian as
那
well
我
as the
今天非常
lecturer
高兴，
at
也非常
L'École
荣幸可
and
以
also
和
the
我们
teacher
的
of savoir-faire
华盛的老
together
师
with
Claire 老师一起来给大家
Claire.
做这样的一
We're
个
very
线上的
honored
一个对
to
谈。
actually
那老
have
师也
this
给大家
online
打个招
conversation
呼。
with all of you. Claire, say hello to everyone.
Hello, good evening. I'm Claire Zhang. I'm jewelry designer and lecturer at Legon School of Jewelry Arts. I'm very happy to work with Xiaojia tonight at the Legon School of Jewelry Arts at the exhibition hall and share with you on a topic that's of great interest to both of us when East meets West in jewelry design.
关注到我们这一次的
Yes, I think that you may take a notice of a theme or the topic of our conversation, which is when East meets West in jewelry design. And for this conversation, I believe that is quite consistent with our exhibition.
其实我和 Claire 老师还有其他的相关
Together
的
with
组织
Claire
是
as well
有
as
长
the
时间在
other
巴黎进行学
teachers,
习，
you know,
所以
we
说
have
到
been
学习节的
learning
时
and
候，我
studying
们也会在
in
最后把我们
Paris
自己
for
的一
quite a
些
long
经验
time.
拿出来
And
和大家
talking
进行
about
分享。
learning from the
希望这个
West
小
and
时跟
apply
大
in
家
the
也
East,
是
we
轻
will
松
also
愉
share
快，而
with you
且也
our
可以有
personal
一些
experience.
近
I
见
hope that you
也
can
进行
have
的
a
一个
very
交
relaxed
流
and
的空
also
间。
rewarding
好，
1
那我们
hour
就正
together
式
with
开
us.
始。其实在
Okay,
整个
let's
的这个
officially
讲座
kick
开
off
始之
our
前，我会替大家有一
lecture.
个问
So
题，
before we
也就
start,
是
I would like to ask
这
one
一次我
question
们的这个展览
on behalf of our
相
audience.
对于普通的观
For
众来
this
说，其实是
exhibition,
有一点门槛的，对不对？
you can see
其实是
that,
一个
you
非
know,
常小
versus
的
the
一个圈
ordinary
子。
visitor,
所
it
以
is
有
quite
的
a
时候
niche
我会
exhibition,
观
right?
察来参观
Yes, it
我们
is.
展览的这个朋友，我也会觉得，哎，大家是不是会有一些疑问，同时会不会好奇
And
说，
yes, when
为什么
we
我们会
observe
做
the
一个跟珠
visitors,
宝
I
设计
believe
相关
that
的，
people
但
may
是
have a
是
question
以
mark in
文
their
稿
mind
和
why
手
we
稿
have
为主的
a
这样的一个展览。
jewelry-related
那
exhibition, but
其
it's
实我们
dominated by the
如
jewelry
果提到
drawings.
东西方哈，那说到东
Yes,
方，
speaking of the
其实
East
很
and the
多文
West,
献
speaking
上
of the
现在
East,
都有一个
actually
文
there are
献，
lots
有
of
很多的
literature
跟这
from
个皇家相
all
关
kinds
的
of dynasties
部门
related
去
to
做这个珠宝。
the
那如果我们
royal
去深
family
究
as
这
well as
些
the competent
珠宝
authorities
手稿
which
的书籍，那
manufactured
就会发现
and
你会在
created
在
the
文字
jewelry.
里
And
其
if
实
we
不
trace
难
the
会看见
manuscripts
这
or the
个珠
drawings,
宝
we
手稿
will
的存
see
在。
that
那像现
there
在
are
我们
lots
看
of
到的
jewelry
大理寺
design
里，就是
drawings.
当时的这个皇
And
帝
in
为
the
这个
collection of rites
整
of the
理
Ming
大理时
Dynasty,
期的皇家文化，这
which
些
is a
礼仪
collection
规
of
制
the
而做
royal
的这样的一个
captures
文
as
献。
well as
很
the
有意思的是，
ceremonial
这本
systems
书里面有
for
一
the
个
Ming
专门的插
Dynasty. It's
图，
very
所以我们
interesting.
可以
In the
看到
book,
皇
there
帝
are
的这个
lots
冠
of
型以及九龙
illustrations,
旗
so we
后的
can
这样
see
一个
the
位置。
Empress
那
crown
当然，我们在
on
后来出
features
土的这
nine
些
dragons
宋
and
代
four
的皇后的
phoenix,
画
and
像中，也
also
可以去看
on
到
in
九
the
龙四凤的这
paintings
个
of
凤冠的这
the
个存在。
empresses of
所
Song
以那
Dynasty.
个
We
时候
also
所出
see
现的
such
珠宝手
crowns.
绘的手稿，可能跟我们现在
So
想
the
象的
jewelry
手稿是不太一样
design
的。 对，
drawings
没
are
有那么
different
多的
from
可以发挥
contemporary
的空
ones.
间，因为它其实是理
There
法的
was
这个
little
重
room
点。
for
那我相信
flexibility.
在
It
西
was
方
more
也是一
about
样的。没
the
错，所以我们今
ceremonial
天其
rites.
实
I
也
think
会
it's the
对
same in
比
the West.
东西方的珠
Yes,
宝设计的这
today
个
in
手
our
稿，在不同的历
conversation,
史时
we're
期，
also
它的功能是
going
什
to
么？
show you
珠
a
宝这个
lot
手
of
稿到底
the
经历了什么
jewelry
样的一
design
个变
drawings
化的
in
一
the
个
East
过
and
程，
West,
一直到今
and you
天，
will
可能我们看到
understand
珠
the
宝设计师的
evolvement
这样
as
的一
well
个
as the
手稿的时候，
changes in
又
different
可以
period of
用什么
time.
样的眼
And
光去解
today,
读
when we
它？
see the
那
jewelry
其
design
实
drawings,
在
we
我
may have
们
different
去看像
interpretations.
屏幕上现在大家能
Actually,
看到的这些
when
例
we
子的时
see
候，
these
首先一来，我们可以
examples
从
on
这
the
个油画
screen,
的肖
on
像
the
过
one
程当
hand,
中，去
from
了
these
解到
oil
很多当
paintings,
时
these
的文化的
portraits,
信息，
we can
大家
easily
着装的一个
understand
习
some of the
惯，
cultural
当然还有和
information,
着装搭
people's
配的这
habits
些
of
珠宝和
wearing,
饰
as
品
well
的一个
as
佩戴
the
的方式、材
jewelries,
料
as well
等
as
等
the
等等，都会展开
decorations. together with the dresses, as well as the materials. Well, at the same time, Holbein, he got a very famous jewelry design drawings, and they're also very successful portrait painters. They themselves are personally jewelry designers. We'll also give you more information about this. And for this Antonio Pisanello study for necklace drawings, I believe that Claire is also an expert of history, but today we just want to lead you to the entrance of the jewelry design world. We're not going to give you the answers. You can see the necklace on the screen. What are the patterns and what are the connotations? What materials are really adopted, whether they are the real pieces being manufactured? There are a lot of questions in our minds. So with curiosity, we're going to spend this 1 hour. And of course, following the routine, we're going to have 3 parts in our presentation. So since we already talk about jewelry design drawings, as a professional, we would like to tell you what is jewelry design drawing. While at the same time, we will also take your hands to visit our exhibitions, and from our workshop, you're going to see the historical stories and interesting things. And then finally, we will also take you back to the exhibition space with our personal experience and our own design, as well as the drawing experience. In the future, with this starting point, we can go to a much broader space. Okay, let's start from the first part. So this is actually the profession of Claire. First of all, since our topic is jewelry design drawings, there are a lot of, materials we're going to talk about, right?
Yes, actually, it's about medium. In jewelry design and jewelry gouache, we have lots of particulars about the paper, the rulers, as well as the brushes are highly specialized. In the Chinese painting, we emphasize the importance of instruments. And in French, there is one word, gouache, and another is gouache. The only difference is the accent. The gouache is about the pigments, whereas gouache is about the paintings. So this is one point of knowledge I'd like to share with you. And in traditional high jewelry, we use gouache. So gouache appeared in the Middle Ages, but it wasn't until the end of the 19th century that it was used by designers in drawings, especially in jewelry design. And gouache actually are mineral pigments, which can represent the transparent texture just like the watercolors, but at the same time, they can also represent the opaque texture through layering, which cannot be achieved by watercolors. And another important point is that in gouache, there is white pigment, which can show the relief effect. And in today's lecture, and also on site in our exhibition hall, there are lots of such examples. And speaking of mineral pigments in China, in Chinese traditional painting, especially in landscape painting, the mineral pigments were used on a lot, and lots of the murals in the Dunhuang caves were painted with mineral pigments. And this is the only masterpiece that survived by Wang Ximeng. Thousand Li of Mountains and Rivers, a real masterpiece. And we use the azurite and also the malachite, and these pigments can be found in the painting. And they're actually the same with the paintings on the pigments that we use in today's paintings.
Yes, we can imagine. We will look at this picture. All of the colored pigments are just extracted from the mountains. Is that quite romantic and amazing? And you can see, as a painter or as a jewelry designer, our work themselves are quite romantic.
Yes, indeed. They come from nature and they return to nature.
And besides the pigments, there's another medium which is very important. And I think that, generally speaking, people tend to ignore this medium. People think that paper existed since ancient times. And in China, we invented the paper and we also promoted the usage of the paper. And you can see that the invention of the paper, you can see there are also the understandings in the Western world about this. And the three pieces of work you can see on the screen can find the actual exhibits in our exhibition. We can interpret these three pieces from different angles, but now let's just stay on the role of the paper as a medium. On the left-hand side, you will see that this is actually a 9-page jewelry catalog. It's in the second half of the 18th century. And actually, the paper is the rag or the cloth paper. And this is quite different from Pasanello's period, which is the Renaissance period. At that time, they will use the calf skin or the sheep skin, etc. It means that the designers or the drawers, they can easily acquire paper for design or for painting. Claire, please tell us the story about the next two pieces.
Well, I'm particularly fond of the one in the middle because it's very important in the art history and it's right in front of us. And he is René Lalique, a very important artist in the Art Nouveau period. And this is plant fiber paper. And before drawing, there is oil seed painted on the paper, which makes the paper has a retro feel. This is his personal style. And the third piece also comes from a very important workshop, Prélia Hadot workshop. And if we do not describe the paper, many people may not guess because we can enlarge this piece. It's painted on the plastic board. So this is also a special feature of a gouache. It can be attached to any material, including transparent plastic board. And Prélia and Hadot created the jewelry watches and the dial and also the colored parts are painted on the brown cardboards, whereas the rest is painted on plastic board. So when the two are put together, we will see very three-dimensional effect. It's like a coating. And also paper in the 19th century became very common. There are all kinds of colors for paper, and the designers chose different colors according to their own aesthetic choice to illustrate the jewelry.
Indeed, talking about materials, I believe that there's one specific material which is unfamiliar to a lot of people. However, at the same time, we can see that tracing paper in a lot of contexts are widely used. For example, the architect as well as the other industries, they will widely use the tracing paper. So Claire used her own personal drawings to tell you that the tracing paper can be used like this.
Well, actually, in China, it is also called sulfuric acid paper because in the process, the paper was put in sulfuric acid to make the paper translucent. So as a result, we can use such paper to copy any pattern you'd like. So we can use the tracing paper to copy the patterns we'd like to copy, and it's very handy because after finishing the drawing, I can put it in front of my chest or in my hand to see the scale as well as the color scheme and the fitting with myself or the clients. So this is a feature of the tracing paper.
And of course, the appearance of the tracing paper is also in the middle of the 19th century, together with paper invention. So for pigment or paper as medium, along with this emergence, industries play a very decisive role. Jewelry designers, they are not in this world independently. They have to work together with the other industry professionals. While at the same time, you can see that for jewelry designer drawings, as well as the designer's personal life, in particular in the 21st century, can be said very personal, very mysterious. Claire again showed us this drawings of a design of a ring. It's called Sound in the Seven. Please tell us why it is called as this name. And as a layman, it is the first time I see this evolvement from the sketches, the white paper, and on the left-hand side, you can see how this is designed, the colors, and in the middle, we actually see the drawings on the gray paper. It seems to be very precise. And finally, you can see it looks like a picture of the actual jewelry pieces. So I think that as a high jewelry designer, on the final gouache, you may pay most of your efforts and your time. And sketches, even small children can try this in 3 to 5 minutes, right?
Thank you, Xiaojia. Well, actually, I'm sure this is also a question on the minds of many of you. And at each step, we spent some time, but the time spent varies. When you see the drawing, you may think that will only take 3 to 5 minutes. But actually, the search for inspiration takes the longest time and effort. And sometimes we need to do lots of research to design a work. We need to create a mood board to bring together all the materials that we have collected for formulaic study. And for step 2, and when the drawing is set, we need to think about the color scheme and what kind of the gemstone can fit the lizard in the sun. And then finally, we draw the gouache. And after that, there will be on the creating process. Gouache actually doesn't take up that much of time, perhaps just 1 day, but the previous steps take much longer. We cannot calculate in a scientific method.
So seven in the sun.
7 actually refers to when I was on a trip, and every day a lizard accompanied me at my breakfast, running for 7 days in a row. So it's called 7.
So for design industry to today, for the contemporary art design or jewelry design, we will actually integrate our daily experience in the design as an inspiration. And it just takes more time for us to believe in our inspiration and to leave some room for our inspiration to flower. And we also said that after we formulate the design drawings, and then we will come to next step. Maybe this is also not very familiar by the general public. This is called mock-up. The reason mock-up can be realized is because the designers, they just benchmark with gouache, manuscript, and manufacture the final products. Why this is happening? That is because, the scale is 1:1 to the drawings. It means that as long as you just benchmark the final products with the drawings, it should be 1:1 in scale.
Yes, actually, the design drawing is a very special form of artwork. It's different from the drawings for garments or architecture because we have to draw it 1:1. You have to reenact, to realize the object before you can really create it. So the drawing has to be 1:1 in scale. So it's a technical drawing as well. And technical drawing needs to help the gemologist for the matching of gemstones and also for modeling for mocap and also for goldsmith for metal making. So this drawing actually will accompany the full process of the birth of the artwork.
So it's both artistic as well as functional. For our exhibition, there are also other very specific details. We just want to share with you our observations on these details. First of all, you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, there is a pink join. This is also the join of a pendant watch from Alexander Prédiard. So from these joins, can you tell which gemstones they have been adopted, which metal they use? And as a setter or as a jewelry designer, when you see this information, you will get a lot of things from this drawing. Let me just zoom out.
So we can see that the transparent texture can be illustrated at the center of the dial. And translucent pink is used. It's like pink crystal. And what else can we see? We see the ruby. So this can also illustrate the texture with the very strong color saturation. And there is another beneath. We see the egg-shaped gemstone.
And, it's actually platinum in terms of the metal.
It's very thin. And let me show you another one. It's completely opaque representation. This is the guilloche enameling.
Yes, we know that guilloche is that on the metal where we use carving techniques. And we see that this kind of metal texture, there will be a very thin and transparent enamel. We must use transparent enamels. And this kind of metal texture will be very transparent and appealing. It also requires the jewelry designers to have rich experience in materials, in process, or in the gemstone knowledge themselves.
Yes, related knowledge and experience. Just now, Xiaojia mentioned guilloche enameling. And actually, in drawing, this is completely the same. We need to have a base, and on top of that, there will be guilloche, and then the transparent color layering.
In the middle, you can find a different effect. Claire already tells us the color white. You can see that this is the biggest difference of the color between watercolor as well as gouache. Because for gouache, it really relies on the color pigment themselves, a thin or very thin one to show the effect.
Well, the drawing in the middle, if you have a chance to see for yourself our exhibition and this piece of work, you will see that lots of the carvings are represented by the white pigment. It's called ambassador, or thick layering. It can represent this relief effect, which cannot be achieved by watercolors.
And there's another good news. During the exhibition, we also prepared some hands-on experience for all of you. You can just follow Claire and Shu Yu to have a try in a small workshop. So if you personally visit our exhibition, there's one of the manuscript which is quite similar to the pendant watch on the left-hand side. So hands-on experience is very important. Okay, we already understand in the drawings what materials are adopted and how it exists and evolve. Next, let's look at the historical resources beyond the workshop. Any other examples we can see related to jewelry design?
So let's travel back to the Song Dynasty. The Mogao Caves of Dunhuang. If you've been to Dunhuang, I'm sure you will remember Cave 61. It's one of the largest caves. And in Cave 61, we have the donors of the Cao family, General Cao Yuanzhong, especially the third one is the sister of Cao Yuanzhong, and who is the princess of Khotan, the kingdom of Khotan, in today's Xinjiang region. And we can see that she was bedecked in green on jewelry, and she was also wearing a phoenix peach-shaped crown, and also with buyao, ornamental dangling hairpins. So this is an illustration of the aristocratic ladies of Tang and 5 dynasties, and she was also wearing necklaces. And in Chinese jewelry history, ladies seldom wore necklaces because they paid more attention to crowns and headwear. And let's look at the Empress of Emperor Song Qing of Northern Song Dynasty. The phoenix crown was very finely represented. The crown features 9 dragons and 4 phoenix, and there is very detailed record, for example, 1 big dragon and 9 on small dragons and 4 phoenix. There are lots of fairies using the kingfisher feather art method, and it also features lots of gemstones. It's very gorgeous and glamorous with very sophisticated processes. Song Dynasty actually is a great prosperous era in China's jewelry history, which has a lot to do with their social background.
Yes, all of the ornaments as well as jewelries exist in this period for specific purposes. This is also the same in the Western world. We can see that Elizabeth I, she is very much, interested in the personal portrait. So sometimes we also remind people that, as the ruler in the Western world, from a portrait of an emperor or empress, we can interpret this portrait from different angles, just like Meitu Xiuxiu app today. You can see that the painter will be requested to refine some details. And of course, for example, make the gemstone bigger or make the pearls color more aligned with the skin color to make it more, harmonious. So when we see this portrait, let's just imagine we live in those periods. What will be our feelings? We will see that this person are assigned by God to be our ruler because there's so many jewelries, precious gemstones decorating him or her, while at the same time, like we said, you can see Holbein. There's another example, Hans Miller's example, the jewelry book of the Duchess Anna of Bavaria. It's just like historical records. It shows that there are jewelry designs as well as jewelry pieces looking like this. But the more valuable thing is that, the existence of these drawings doesn't be here for good-looking purposes. It can be realized or it has already been manufactured in reality.
Well, if we take a closer look, I also feel surprised because the setting of the pearl on the holes in the pearls and as well as the rubies as well as green gemstones have also been mounted, and all these details are very finely drawn, and even feels that he must have been a jewelry artist.
Yes, for every steps, how the jewelries are made can be pictured. And in China, you can see that the patterns books looks a little bit different versus the Western ones.
Well, in China, we have the literature of patterns, but they're just records. And in every dynasty, there is a special agency. For example, in Tang Dynasty, it's called Wen Si Yuan, and in Qing Dynasty, it is called Zao Ban Chu. So literally meaning the office of creations under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Rights. And on the screen, we can see this 3 talents illustrated encyclopedia by Wang Qi and Wang Siyi, which is a very important piece of literature for our research. And in this book, we can find almost everything about then social structure, the fashion, as well as evolution in knowledge. So in volume 3, about the costume, we see that people at that time wore hairpins, earrings, crowns, as well as other headwear. So it's an illustrated encyclopedia it also provides historical testimony. And on the right-hand side, I like this drawing very much. It's from the red file of imperial wedding Qing dynasty, the phoenix headwear drawing. And this drawing is completely different from the historical record. It's a technical drawing because on the left-hand side, it reads, on the size of the pearls in real life should be the same as those drawn on this piece. So it's an artwork as well as a technical drawing.
And in the West, sometimes we also remind people, when you look at the patterns book, you will see gemstones as well as all kinds of different patterns recorded. So how are we going to appreciate these books? First of all, we have to understand the history as well as the geography. For example, in France, between 16th and 17th century, a lot of gemstones are not cut locally. Mostly they will be centralized in Brazil, Belgium, as well as in Germany for the cutting purposes. While at the same time, it will also influence the Paris designers. The potential for their own flexibility of the design will be limited. Since I already talked about the gemstones already look like this. So how can we combine those gemstones together? So in 16th and 17th century, you will see that this design drawings is more like a format. But in the 19th century, with industrial revolution going on, the world becomes flat. So people can personally visit a lot of places using new materials and new humanity and new history. And then if you want to interpret Jardin Barrier, the drawings of the miniatures, you will find a lot of interesting stories. First of all, it's a miniature. Well, secondly, if it is realized on the metal, and then it can also be carved on ivory materials. And it's also in the new classical period. It's just like the figures in the ancient Greek history will be shown on these pieces. On this same period of time, Fernand Baillet will just provide his personal drawing to different maisons as well as the clock brandings for their own choices.
Well, similar to Fernand Baillet, what we are seeing is from another independent workshop in France, which is called La Cloche or La Cloche Brothers. Well, Xiaojia mentioned that Industrial Revolution left very mature markets with the big brands and department stores. And there were also the new fish which emerged after the Industrial Revolution. So the clientele also changed. And there were catalogs of products which form part of the archive of the products. And this catalog can also provide reference for the clients to choose from, and also for the maison. So in this era, this is the Art Deco movement.
And talking about the Art Deco period, I still remember that when I have a conversation with Claire, she said one sentence really touched me. She said that the best art comes from the exchange of ideas. I totally agree with this. And today, as a craftsman or as a jewelry designer, we must pay appreciation or pay tributes to our predecessors. They are the people who laid the foundation of today's design, and I believe that they start from the Art Nouveau as well as Art Deco period. And they want to understand different cultures, they want to understand Western world. They personally go to Paris and Lyon and to study in the Fine Arts Academy as well as universities. And then these artists come back to China. Well, at the same time, there are a lot of famous names, including Cheng Shuhong, Cheng Shana. And actually, Xiansheng is actually a title we given to this artist, no matter they're female or male. You can see that all of these artists has devoted their whole life to the Chinese arts development, and they really want to apply what they learned from the Western world in Art Deco period to the Chinese artistic world. And after they came back, they actually established the Fine Arts Academy in China, which is the predecessor of the Tsinghua School of Fine Arts. And Mr. Lei Guiyuan, he also inspired by the French art and also prepared this taste, which is the pattern book of Guiyuan on paper.
Speaking of the Art Deco movement, actually at that time, Shanghai changed a lot. Shanghai was known as the Paris in the East. And due to the rapid development of industries, and Shanghai followed Paris very closely in terms of fashion. There was long earrings, bob cut. And when the hair became short on the neck and nape, were revealed. So at that time, people wore long earrings. And when we read magazines of the day like Liang Yu and Ling Long, we saw lots of beautiful ladies. And also on the calendar card. Originally, it was about the weather, but later they became the advertising boards for foreign merchants in China. And on calendar cards, there were lots of beautiful ladies wearing fashionable clothes, and many of them are socialites of the day. And we also find an illustration from a magazine of Paris of the day. We saw lots of Oriental elements like bonsai, as well as the headwear representing the shape of a Chinese fan. And she is also holding Art Deco style rose, very feminine, and its combination with the Art Deco movement.
Yes, I believe that the Art Deco appearance is between the First and the Second World War, and it's very good echoing the historical artistic development. If you look much more details into this period, you will understand why female becomes so important in that history. And in the third part of our presentation, we would like to, from both macro as well as micro perspective, to understand the rendezvous of Eastern and Western cultures, or to which period we can trace back to. When we talk about the collision of the Eastern and Western culture, we may think of Silk Road. And today, we would like to show you a special exhibition from Versailles to the Forbidden City. This is actually a very good story about exchange between the East and West. There are two interesting stories on the screen on the left-hand side. We believe that this is a pocket watch given by Louis XIV to Emperor Kangxi. So you will see on the case of the pocket watch, you can see the portrait of Louis XIV. And on the right-hand side, you will also see a dragon pattern. I believe that this gift is really a good one. On the right-hand side, you can see the portrait of Emperor Qianlong. This is not painted on a paper.
It's a porcelain on painting. It's a Western artistic style, but it's the Chinese emperor painted on by Sèvres manufacture. I'm sure many of you are very familiar with the brand.
It means that at that time there's very frequent exchange between East and the West in Qing Dynasty as well as France. There's scientific as well as artistic exchange.
Well, on the screen we can see two sets of drawing instruments as testimony of history. On the left, we see a gift set from the French king, and on the right-hand side, You see, part of the instruments are from France, but we also developed the instruments ourselves, like the ruler, the compass, as well as the instruments that measure the eclipses. And also the authorities also made an enamel on box. You can draw and carry the box around with you when you paint outdoors. So at that time in the imperial palace of Qing dynasty, there was very strong French style when it comes to drawing and painting. If you carry these things around, you can be very fashionable scientific explorer.
To explore the world and talking about curiosity, yes, in 1851, after we had the first World Expo, the gate between East and West are totally open to each other. So firstly, the Western world get in touch with Japanese culture, but the foundation of our cultures are interlinked with each other. So when we talk about the artistic school in the 19th century, what can you think of? We may think about actually the Japanese, Le Japon artistic magazine, as well as the Oriental elements. Well, at the same time, in 1888, and Mr. Bing is actually a German artistic merchant because he personally visited Japan. Together with his friends, they have been publishing Le Japon Artistic magazine for 3 years consecutively. And on this magazine, you can see the architectures as well as the artistic pieces and ukiyo e-prints and the other things on this magazine. You can see that a lot of artists are subscribing to this magazine. They're eager to understand what are the Oriental elements, even though they haven't personally been there, but from this magazine, they can understand there's another world beyond the West. So from this exhibition, we're also creating this potential and possibility for all of our visitors.
Yes, and there is another artist in our exhibition that's very noteworthy, Alan Segue. And he also published lots of albums or collections of drawings of the Oriental Far Eastern culture, including Chinese and Japanese cultures. And the albums were sold to designers, artists, as well as the maisons. So more and more people became fascinated with the Oriental art. And people began to know there was also Oriental aesthetics, aside from Western aesthetics.
So no matter for this Phoenix or for the Annecy, the book Le Jacques du Coromandel published under the direction. So you can see the actual exhibits. And now let's come back to René Lalique. I would like to say more words about René Lalique because I have been emphasizing during our conversation during the 16th, 17th, and 18th century, the potential or the flexibility of the designers is not that broad. There are a lot of restrictions on them. However, at the same time, we want to emphasize that René Lalique is so talented. He is actually the first person to turn the identity of a designer as an artist.
Well, exactly. Actually, what he did was not limited to an artist. Everything he did, he served the public by creating glass, for example. And the first drawing, well, illustrates a free spirit, which reminds me of Chinese calligraphy and Chinese landscape paintings. So many times he used the Oriental aesthetics to represent his work, and he was a great expert on the use of materials. For example, this comb featuring 2 swallows, he used the horn.
Yes, we see that the horns as well as the other materials application. And we also see the material glass. So René Lalique used these materials in a lot of his creations. We will not show all of these pieces one by one. You can personally visit our exhibition. So you can see that there are a lot of signature labelings of René Lalique in these drawings. It's just like a personal diary. So he personally raised the questions and answered these questions from material as well as color, things like that. He wants to record his personal ideas and philosophies of design. So you should personally visit and take a look. And in Art Nouveau period, you will see a lot of innovations of materials. For example, on the left-hand side, you will see Henri Weber collection. This is a design for a corsage ornament because the size is very big. So if you want to personally see the exhibits, you must visit our Paris campus. It's called the City of Pros in Paris. You will never miss this piece because it actually uses the dent de chien pearl. It comes from Mississippi of the United States, and enamels, it uses picajou. On the right-hand side, René Lalique. Again, from the first side, you may think, wow, it's amazing. And from technique as well as material perspective, you can see that the combination of glass and enamel. And gemstone and metal are not that important in this piece.
Well, actually, there was great admiration for Lalique. Sometimes we do designs for the sake of gemstones. But what moves us is that Lalique actually designs for the sake of design. He didn't give a thought to the importance or preciousness or value of the materials. He just wanted to illustrate the ice trees in the forest. So in the background, there was carved glass, and in the foreground, there is enamel. So he created new processes for his artworks.
Absolutely, we will look at his designs as well as his artistic pieces again and again and never feel bored. And for our exhibition, the third and the fourth period will be in the Art Deco. And for Art Deco, design drawings will be showcased in different formats. For example, on the left-hand side, you will see this product, this vanity case. Are you familiar with this?
Oh, exactly. We see that the front has a piece of jade. I guess that this piece of jade has already been acquired before the design is made, and this is nothing new for lots of maisons. During the Art Deco period, they had access to imported jade pieces from China. And this also showed their line for the Chinese and Oriental culture. And at the back, there was railings of windows. And to my surprise, it also shows a very romantic perspective. And on the right-hand side, we see the red dragon right behind me. And you can also take a look at our video, which shows the dragon very clearly and vividly. It's a decoration on the vanity case. And the designer would like to use the whole piece of ruby to make it, but we know to find such big ruby of such vivid color and good quality is very difficult. And if it's on one scale, it's very huge. But actually the reflections of the scale can be captured by the ruby. If you're interested, you can visit the exhibition and see for yourself.
Yes, sometimes the drawings are not turned into the real pieces, but it doesn't compromise its artistic value. Yes, we're talking about the Oriental elements. Well, at the same time, there are also some unfamiliar category, which is the vanity box. You can see that in Art Deco period, the status of the female also changed. The vanity case, the female hold it in their hands, and there are also lipsticks, and there are also other precise and very good instrument, for example, lighter to light the cigarette in the vanity box. These are quite glamorous box. On the surface of the vanity box, you can see this area is the place waiting for you to decorate. It's just like a media for the artistic design. During Art Deco period, you see that it used jade, lacquer, as well as the other materials for the decoration. This is really an amazing period. And of course, we already promised that we will tell you our personal stories. Claire and me, we are curious about history, and we're also designers. So from these exhibitions, from the history as well as the historical figures, we learned a lot. We draw inspirations from them. If you visit our Shanghai campus, you will understand that if you come to the Cassie Cinema, but if you miss the legal Shanghai campus, it will be a very big loss.
Actually, it's just 1 minute's walk away from the Legolo China campus, and it reopened the year before last year. And I was greatly inspired by the Art Deco movement and created this piece. Art Deco movement for me is a brand new lifestyle and approach to life. It's very unique. It shows the confidence in society represented by the neat lines.
And the color match, if you understand that period, you can see gray and white are quite Art Deco.
So this is my piece. What about yours, Xiaojia?
Yes, in 2017, in order to echo the Paris exhibition, I have a design together with Jean-Marc, because the theme at that period is to let the designers who live or who work in Paris, we can choose a location in Paris. So together with my partner, we are reminded about the Notre Dame de Paris, the colored windows. And from those tinted glass windows, I draw the inspirations. And there are also the oriental elements. For example, it's a hairpin. It's oriental elements. And of course, it's related to the techniques. And the titanium, you can see Mark used this metal plastic, and it's called actually the gouache enabling. There's another story. It requests light. So we think that this enabling will be a very good medium for this piece of art. And I believe that this artistic piece is the result of the exchange between the East and West, and also a precious memory for both of us.
Very romantic. Well, be it designer or on potential designer or future designers, or if you're just interested in jewelry, we all want to travel across the boundaries of time and space and preserve the beautiful things through our representations.
So everyone can try and dream to become a jewelry designer. We can start from the selection of the materials, and on March the 24th in the Paris campus, there will be a magnificent exhibition, Paris City of Pearls. There will be 2 curators, Olivier Seguirat, and another curator will have an on-site guide for the visitors. So you can register and make an appointment. While at the same time, in our Shanghai campus, the exhibition Designing Jewels will also last until the end of March. Don't miss this good opportunity. Through different platforms, you can acquire all of the information about the courses and exhibitions.
If you do not have opportunity to attend the workshop, you can also follow our gouache program. If you have the chance to travel across the world, including our campuses, in Hong Kong, Paris, and Dubai. We have different exhibitions in these campuses.
I believe that you're very interested in today's topic. We also collected some of the questions from our audience. The first one from Anna, our French audience. René Lalique, does he have some impact on the Asian jewelry design? He personally visited Asia?
Or has he been to Asia?
I don't think that he visited Asia, but there are some influence in Shanghai by René Lalique. You can come to the Peace Hotel. So you can see there are some of the preservations of the René Lalique impact.
Okay, another question.
And this question comes from Chinese audience. So what touches you most in the exhibition designing jewels?
Well, let me answer the question first. My favorite is from René Lalique, the rhododendron crown. And it is also a key vision of our exhibition because his grasp of the color scheme and the representation of the rhododendron actually were very impressive. And his jewelry drawings are just like pieces of artwork for me because he didn't follow those fixed rules. And he was also a craftsman. He drew for himself, and on his drawings, there were lots of pencil traces. You can even see his thinking process. So when you stand in front of his drawings, it's just like you are watching him think, draw, and review. You're just like with him. So this is my favorite about you.
You got all my answers, but I can add one point. No matter for René Lalique or the other designers in our exhibition, I think you can regard them as a person in front of you, even though they already passed away, but their drawings are kept. There's so many information telling their personal stories to you, so you can continue to find new stories. And finally, a question from our Japanese friend, whether the designers design based on the gemstone on their hands or they just, do the design first. And whether there are some pigment which will be detrimental to human beings and will be replaced by the other pigments. The first question is easy to answer. The answer is both. Gemstone first and then design, or design first and then find gemstone. This is a very good question.
Well, actually, when you have the design and when you look for the gemstones, this can be difficult. So if you acquire the gemstone first, which has different characters, ruby or pigeon blood ruby, some can be brighter and more vivid. And young ladies prefer certain kind, whereas others may prefer other features. So when you have the gemstone, you do the design, it will be easier and better. And regarding the gouache pigments, on environmental pollution or toxic on minerals have been abandoned. For example, orpiment, we no longer use it because it's toxic. And some yellow pigments are made with mummies. It's too precious and valuable.
That's very interesting. And I think that this is not only happens on gouache pigment and in enamels, it also have the same happening, the same thing, and also on the color yellow. And I also see that our audience are very interested in jewelry designs, full of curiosity. So please keep your curiosity and together with us to go through one exhibition after another, to visit different campuses. We will continue to provide very interesting stories to all of you. Thank you so much for spending the past 1 hour together with us. I'd like to thank you, Claire, and thank all the other colleagues. We hope to meet you soon again. Meet with you in Shanghai campus in our exhibition.
Wish you a good night.